Om. Om. Om Shri Ganeshaya Namaha. Om Shri Saraswatyai Namaha. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Samasta Jana Kalyane Niratam Karunamayam Namami Chinmayan Devam Satgurum Brahma Vidwaram Satgurum Brahma Vidwaram Yuvantah Pravishya Mama Vachamimam Prasuptam Sanjeevayatya Kila Shakti Dharasvatamna अन्यांश्च हस्तशरणश्रवणत्वगादीन् प्राणान्नमो भगवते पुरुषाय तुभ्यम् प्राणान्नमो भगवते पुरुषाय तुभ्यम् समचरणसरोजम् सान्द्रनीलाम्बुदाभम् जघनविहितपाणिम् मण्डनं मण्डनानाम् तरुणतुलसीमालाम् कन्धरं कञ्जनेत्रम् सदयधवलहासं विठ्ठलं चिन्तयामि विठ्ठलं चिन्तयामि.
Namaste, my Lord. Namaste to all the Mahatmas in tonight's Eknathi Bhagawat session. We are in chapter 22. We have finished verse 637 Ovis. We start with verse number 55. अर्थेह विद्यमानेऽपि संसृतिर्न विनर्तते ध्यायतो विषयानस्य स्वप्नेनर्थागमो यथा. Over to you, Srimati.
Meaning of the verse: though nothing good is likely to come about, man's attachment does not decline from this world. He suffers like a man afraid in a dream who faces total disaster there, though all is false. 638. If we consider fully, dream is false, but by enjoying objects in the dream, a man generally suffers. Just take an example. 639. A man dreams that he has got a son or he is greatly honored by the king, but the dreamer is elated. And if he dreams that all his money is lost, he is very sad. 640. If he is not awakened by us, O Uddhava, the suffering in the dream does not end. 641. Similarly, persons who are attached to the worldly objects are continuously thinking of the same pleasures. Those are proud of their body, and hence those are really merged into those pleasures. 642. What are the actions to be taken to remove these attachments to objects? I shall tell you about it. 643. The fear of this worldly life is never removed if a man does not listen to my divine miracles, if he does not think and obtain the knowledge about spiritual path, or does not completely apathy about the pleasures of senses. 644. The fear of this worldly life does not go if a man only says verbally that this life is unreal. The chain of births and deaths is not cut, nor the sense of I and my positions does not end. 645. Such ignorant persons must take up some discipline in their life, which will be useful to make them free. The important thing is to develop discrimination about what is good and what is bad, and to develop a sense of aloofness about the matters of the worldly life. Then only the tight bondage of this world becomes loose and finally cut off. 646. Oh, Uddhava, one should develop ascetic attitude with complete desirelessness, which is the main means to cut the bondage and to attain knowledge of Brahman. 647. Now, listen to the way to develop desirelessness. One must have acute ascetic attitude firm in one's character like a burning fire. Then only one is able to realize the Brahman. 648. There are such serious seekers of freedom who are awakened to the reality by the Sadguru by inward kind strokes of grace and blessings. 649. They are content in the sense of unity of all beings. They attain the sense of unreality about three modes of nature, Prakriti, and for them, the whole consciousness is blissfully replete with joy of Brahman, and this world seems to be only a dream, a falsehood itself. 650. All this real gain is a result of discrimination and desirelessness. The Lord is telling Uddhava about these qualities further.
तस्मादुद्धव मा भुङ्क्ष्व विषयान सदिन्द्रियैः आत्मा ग्रहण निर्भातम् पश्य वैकल्पिकम् भ्रमम्.
Meaning of the verse, O Uddhava, you should never indulge in the sense objects with the false sense organs. Please see this illusion, which is the result of not catching hold of oneself, the Atman. 651. Attachment to objects is in itself the most important impediment in the attainment of spiritual life. You should therefore cut off mental interest in all the objects of pleasure, etc. Never have interest in them again. 652. When the mind is interested in pleasures, it is held captive by the organs, and being turbulent, it wants to enjoy the sensual pleasures by becoming greedy. This is the disease of the worldly life. This all must be totally abandoned. 653. If a little poison is put in a good food, one will die if one eats even a bit of that food. But by that poison, man dies only once. The pleasurable objects, however, kill us again and again. 654. Now you would say that destiny brings before us the happy or unhappy situations. How can we escape them? How can we give them up? And how can we become desireless? 655. You may say destiny gives pains or pleasures to the seeker. They have to undergo the dangers like deers who cannot escape wild forest fire and are burnt. 656. On this, I say that when the seeker suffers like a cow in the attack by a tiger, he feels acute apathy about this worldly life. 657. When that dejection is real, he gets the attention of his guru, and by the guru's advice and blessings, the sense of duality is gone, and the worldly life is also gone from the seeker's mind. 658. When the blessings of the guru is received, the seeker sees Brahman all over in the world. Then karma is not there, and birth-death phenomenon is also not there. The great illusion, which is worldly life, is also gone. 659. Even if a torch is lit to see what the worldly life is, it is not seen. When the illusion is gone, the apparent serpent disappears and the actual rope is visible. 660. When a top is rotating fast, we feel that it is standing still. Similarly, while the illusion is predominant, the worldly life is seen as real. 661. The whole illusion in the other name of the worldly life, Brahman, is pure. There is neither karma nor birth in Brahman. 662. Though such knowledge of Brahman is attained, the man has to suffer the destined pain or pleasure, just like the wheel of the potter, which keeps on rotating, though the pot found by the clay is taken out by the potter. 663. A tree can be uprooted, but the leaves remain green, and the water content in the tree continues to remain for some time. 664. The sages who have supreme sense of apathy and discrimination remain 665 peaceful and undisturbed, though destiny compels them to enjoy or suffer. So these should be faced with peace and forbearance, and one should not try to fight with them. 666. If peace is really established, the worldly life has no adverse effect. What is this peace? The Lord is telling the good effect of peace and the contentment of the jiva, which soon comes into being.
चित्तोऽवमानितो सद्भिः प्रलब्धो सूयितोऽथवा ताडितः सन्निबद्धो वा वृत्त्या वा परिहापितः विष्ठितो मूत्रितो वाज्ञैः बहुधैवं प्रकम्पितः श्रेयस्कामः कृच्छ्रगतः आत्मनात्मानमुद्धरेत्.
Meaning of the verse, the serious seeker should save himself by forbearance. Even if bad people ridicule him, insult him, he is looted or jealously hated by them, he is tied down or beaten by them, or deprived of his means of livelihood. He should remain undisturbed, even if evil persons urinate upon his body or throw excreta, devilishly harassed by various means by them. He wishes to free himself from this worldly life, though put to trouble by bad people. 668. Though tamasic people who are proud of the body harass the pious sages. The sages are peaceful by nature and therefore never succumb to anger. 669. They are having self-knowledge and therefore they are not annoyed by some nuisance nor get angry though they are subjected to much harassment or humiliation. 670. There are physical, verbal, and mental tortures, but all these three are tolerated by the sages who are permanently in the peaceful state. So they bear these without disturbance. 671. Even if the sages tell the truth in a straight, simple manner, people take objection to it and they ridicule them or insult them in a public meeting. 672. They use verbal torture by accusing the sages by words. He is an evil person. His character is bad. He is impure. He is not good. He is chandal and other deprecatory remarks. 673. A sage suffers silently all the blames and abusive language used by devilish persons because there is some reason. That reason, together with the nature of discrimination, shall be told to you just now. 674. The sage thinks that the tongue and the lips of the accuser are moving. They are not penetrating my body nor hurting me. As this is the thought in his mind, he does not get angry. 675. Suppose he is honored with worship in a public meeting, or on the contrary, he is pushed down from his seat, or he is kicked, or he is insulted and thrown out of the meeting. 676. He says to himself, where they worshipped me, there was earth below my feet, and where they threw me out, the same earth is below my feet. 677. So, if there is honor or dishonor, it is only a mental concept. The sage thinks like this and never hates anybody at all. 678. People deceived a sage, creating greed in his mind and deprived him of his money, and over and above that they make him a subject of derision. At the time, the sage thinks that my greed for money was definitely a cause for my degradation. And 679, if I blame them, it will be my own sin. Having this insight, his peace is not disturbed. 680, the sage understands the meaning of the proverb that money itself is evil, and the man who has saved him from the evil should not be hated. It will be foolishness. 681, he thinks that those who blame the virtue and deride a virtuous man and suppose it to be a good thing are ignorant, but actually they are my saviors. 682. He further thinks that in my childhood, my mother was washing my anus and cleansing only the outward dirt. But these people are like my father. They use their tongue to clean me inside and out. 683. If I counteract, it will be using my own welfare. Thinking like this, he desists from finding fault with anybody or appreciate anybody's virtue. This is the reason why he is peaceful. 684. Even if the source of his livelihood like cash, grains, or agricultural land is taken away forcefully by anybody, the sage has no anger in his mind. 685. He thinks that gain or loss in this world depends on destiny. Destiny gives or takes away, and therefore he does not hate anybody but keeps up his peace. 686. The evil persons do not stop at robbing him of his land. They declare him to be unjust. They tie him, spit on his face, or even some go to the extreme of urinating on his head. 687. Some beat him, some throw him on the ground and harass him in many ways. But as the sage is always having control of mind, he keeps his peace undisturbed. 688. He thinks that sputum and urine are the products of the body, and if whatever belongs to the body falls on the body, why should I get angry? 689. Sputum and urine are produced like a child from the body, and they are like the child. They are worth fondling. Who will get angry and sorry? 690. If a sage is tied and beaten by somebody, the sage says to himself, body is virtually the product of five elements, and the beater and the beaten are the same. Who should feel bad about whom? 691. All the four kinds of liberation become his servants, and even I, the Lord Sri Krishna, obey him. Who is having this quality of peace? What better gain is there in this life? 692. Especially the man who is the seeker of liberation must maintain such peace by all means at any cost, so that that peace will save him from the great whirlpool of sorrow-filled ocean of mundane life. 693. Peace is the final fruit of desirelessness, practice of yoga, self-knowledge, and the practice of meditation. By maintaining that peace, the sages emancipate themselves. 694. O Uddhava, you must therefore forbear the dualities and their difficult nature by sustaining, which are cold and hot, pleasure and pain, and attain eternal peace, which itself is the absolute Brahman. 695. Then birth and death are no more and are never repeated because there is great bliss, and then the fear of the worldly life comes to an end. 696. At this, Uddhava was surprised and declared, I will not be able to tolerate these dualities and the sufferings created by them. 697. My Lord, I have never heard such stories of divine peace by my ears. How could I see such examples? There may not be any persons of this quality of peace throughout the whole world. 698. Oh, my dear Lord, from where did you invent this peace? Never heard or seen earlier. My mind is totally at a loss, and my intellect is afraid by listening to this talk. 699. There was never and will never be such a man who has attained this strange peace. This type of forbearance described by the Lord is very difficult to have. 700. Even a yogi will not be able to maintain this peace in face of dualities. How can persons like me be successful? Uddhava was asking this question to the Lord.
उद्धव उवाच यथैवमनुबुध्येयम् वदनो वदतां वर सुदुःसहमिमं मन्ये आत्मन्य सदतिक्रमम् विदुषामपि विश्वात्मन् प्रकृतिर्हि बलीयसी ऋते त्वद्धर्मनिरतान् शान्तांस्ते चरणालयान्.
Meaning of the verse, pray tell us all the seekers of liberation, O jewel among speakers. How should I get enlightened so to be able to put with such outrages? I regard such outrage to myself by the wicked persons as the most difficult to bear, even for the person of knowledge. Exception, of course, is to be made in case of those who are engaged in chanting and hearing your glories and your sacred name, and have found shelter in your feet, and whose vikaras have been subdued. I say this because nature is indeed very powerful and therefore hard to conquer, even for the knowledgeable persons. O soul of the universe. 701. Uddhava said, those who can know and explain the meaning of Vedas and scriptures are called the real teachers, the speakers, and O Lord, you are the greatest among them, because you are the chief among all such speakers. 702. Scriptures tell your glories by borrowing your knowledge, but by the indirect method of Vedas, these scriptures also become confused. Vedas rest with such statements as not this, while describing the Brahman. 703. Oh, the image of grace. How much should I praise the luck of my ears, which are able to hear your qualities of the glorious nature by your own mouth? Blessed are those who can so listen to you. 704. In such ways, Uddhava praised the Lord Sri Krishna and with folded hands made a request. 705. He said, what the Lord told about the peace of mind is very deep, very sacred, and my mind cannot understand how I can attain that peace. Who would tolerate the outrages done by others? 706. To forgive such insults and humiliation by others, one owns one to forgive such insults and humiliation by others, one's own person is well high impossible because it is quite against human nature. Your advice is impossible to follow in the practical life. How can dualities which are painful be faced with a peaceful mind? 707. If a really great person perpetrates such atrocity at only one exceptional occasion, one among all the people of the society may perhaps condone it, but nobody ever tolerates insult done by a man of evil nature. 708. O Sri Krishna, how can one connive at or tolerate if a man kicks one on head, the man whose face we do not wish to see or who should not be considered worthy of greeting? 709. Only a man whose life force has left him and he who has lost his senses can forgive such insults. One who is alive can never tolerate such humiliation. 710. Why talk of ordinary men? Even those who are learned do not tolerate if it is their command is not followed. Who will tolerate such direct outrage? 711. Even the sage Kapila got angry and cursed the Sagaras and turned them into ashes. Narada cursed the sons of Kubera and turned them into trees. 712. If we tell the story of angry sage Durvasa, it is a big volume. Shringi became angry and he cursed Parikshiti, who had put a serpent around the neck of his father. 713. Sanaka, Sanat, the divine Kumaras are well known for their peaceful minds, but when Jaya and Vijaya stopped them at the door of Vaikuntha, they become angry, and in that way they curse those sentinels. 714. When we see such anger in great men of divine knowledge, what must be the condition of ordinary men who are provoked by insults? O Govinda, in all the three words, it is impossible to find a man who keeps his peace in face of all humiliation. 715. Prakriti, the nature has become very powerful by its gunas. It disturbs its gunas at the slightest provocation. This anger troubles even those who are great sages and adepts in the human evolution. 716. This peace is only possible to attain only by your devotees who receive your full grace and who are completely surrendered at your feet. 717. You are the soul of the whole world. You cannot be deceived by telling lies. I am telling the truth. I will not be able to forbear outrages on my person. O Lord Sri Krishna, this fact is known to you already. 718. Men of wisdom give sermons that peace is sacred at anger is totally dangerous. But even they are not able to keep themselves peaceful in case of insults or humiliation. 719. Dualities are really impossible to tolerate. Why talk of my state of mind? Oh, the image of blessing. Please tell what should be done to attain the peace and tolerance of hardships. 720. Other ways of self-realization may perhaps be followed, but this sense of peace does not enter the mind. So please be kind and tell me some means to attain this peace. 721. Be graceful to tell me how I can reach the state of final welfare of the soul by such peace about which you have told me. So saying, Uddhava touched the feet of the Lord with complete faith. 722. The Lord Sri Krishna was glad to hear this prayer of Uddhava, and just as the cloud gives shower of rain for quenching the thirst of the bird Chataka and blesses the whole world with rain. 723. Similarly, now the Lord will impress the state of peace of the mind. 724. Shangadhara, Shangdhara, 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 who is beautiful and generous, will open the storehouse of peace for Uddhava and will give reply to his question. 725. The style, the magic of the speech of the Lord, his knack of explaining is such that it is glory of logic and intelligence. He will tell this in such a sweet style that peace will embrace the listener. 726. Peace becomes personally manifest when it listens to the words of wisdom from the mouth of the Lord Sri Krishna. So Uddhava became very attentive to listen. 726. 727. Strangely enough, Uddhava was full of concentration to listen as a lion watches for an opportunity to attack elephant. 728. When a fish shines in water, the bird stoops and catches the fish. Uddhava was similarly eager to catch every word of the Lord. 729. In the next chapter, the Lord will tell the story known as Bhikshu, Bhikshu Gita. The Lord will tell the story known as Bhikshu Gita, and in it, he will tell the means of establishing the peace in the heart of the seeker. 730. Those who are the earnest to follow the spiritual path should better put aside other penances, etc., and have one pointed faith on this way of attaining peace. 731. Now the Lord will tell about peace in greater detail, and Uddhava will listen to it eagerly. So Eknath, who is identified with Janardana, requests the listeners to pay attention to me. Here ends the Marathi commentary written by Saint Eknath on the 22nd chapter of the 11th skandha of the Bhagavata Mahapurana, dedicated to Lord Sri Krishna. Sri Krishna Arpanamastu.
Amazing. What a climax now to this chapter. Such a lovely, every OV was so beautiful. And
Yeah.
yes, we will have to wait till I come back and we'll take up the Bhikshu Gita in our next thing. Tomorrow day after we will not have any session because today after this. But then over to Sri Hariji to conclude all the verses and your takeaway points.
Yeah, actually, I was mesmerized with this Ovis today. It was just flowing and I was just going on reading. And it seemed to be very continuous, keeps going on. And so it was little difficult for me to highlight which was important, which, I mean, the key ones. But
Everything was
like
important.
every OV was excellent. So still somewhere I scribbled a couple of points. Uh, so initially, Bhagavan starts with talking about what is real for a known learned person or a known person. What is it's like a if he knows that this world is unreal, he gets awakened. So goes on giving some examples. Uh, like if a dream, while the dream is happening, it is the God who uh, awakens us from the dream, and then we feel that, oh, that is a dream and not true. So that intelligence, that awakening is being done by the Lord Himself. So, so the God, uh, so the suffering, everything happens in the dream. Similarly, in this physical world, everything is like a dream, which is not real. All these worldly objects are unreal. So if we understand that, a person can be happy. So if the fear is never removed, if the man does not listen to the about the spiritual path, about the divine miracles. So that is one thing. So I like this OV 644, where the fear of this worldly life does not go. If a man only says verbally that the life is unreal, the chain of births and deaths is not cut, nor the sense of I and my positions does not end. So if we are just saying verbally that it is unreal, and then this won't the my I and my won't go at all. So the most important is it has to be followed than just verbally heard or told. So this verse, OV, I liked it. Following on, such ignorant persons must take up some discipline in their life, which will be useful to make them free. The important thing is to develop discrimination of what is good and bad, and a sense of aloofness about the world or desirelessness. So, so these are the key things that was told about, like uh, discrimination and desirelessness. These are the two keywords that have been told in the OV 650. So only if a person has a very clear discrimination and desirelessness qualities, then only we can attain that stage. So it was like uh, Bhagavan telling to me directly today. Uh, while we read all this uh, Bhagavatam or any other satsang, at that particular moment, I feel it feels that, oh, this is real. This is the real happiness. But it goes off very quickly and fall back into the same world. So it's like, uh, so in the subsequent verses, much of it is spoken about the attachments to the objects. And why is that we don't have discrimination? Because as soon as we have attachment to the physical objects and the sensual pleasures, one becomes very greedy. And this is like a disease of the worldly life. A very good example given in 653. If a little poison is put in a good food, one will die if it eats even a little bit of that food, and he will die at once or only once. Whereas this pleasurable objects kills us again and again and again. It's a complete maya. So this is what it was told. So again, Bhagavan says, you may say all these pains and pleasures are all brought by the destiny. So one have to undergo all these dangers, uh, like a deer in the wild forest, or a cow um, is waiting for a tiger to be attacked. So Bhagavan goes on and says, yes, if for a learned person, for a realized person, This kind of destiny does bring the pains and pleasures to the seeker, but he is not affected by it. He will uh, uh, forbearance. With forbearance, he will accept everything. He will go through that. So that is what is being told in the subsequent Ovis. Uh, so when such knowledge, pure knowledge is obtained, uh, so there is no, they can handle, like a tree can be uprooted, but the leaves remain green and water content in the tree will remain for some time. Yes, but the sages will be able to uh, handle those kind of things. They'll with a very peaceful. They still have peace and forbearance to handle such things. And Lord goes on and talks more about what is this forbearance and what is this peace, and this is the real peace. And he gave several examples of how evil persons um, trouble the sages and hurt them so much, but still the way they take it. The very good examples were given in the Ovis 665, I believe 665. So these should, 665, 694. 694 somewhere. So, O Dhava, you must therefore forbear the dualities and their difficult nature by sustaining, which are hot and cold, pleasure and pain, and attain eternal peace, which itself is the absolute Brahman. So, this is what he says. So, uh, a learned sage will consider if someone is appreciate them or throw them, they will think that it is only the five elements which is appreciating, or when they fall on the earth, and that is again a five elements. So why should, even if someone spits, they think it is come from a body and it is falling on another body. So body to body. So these kind of examples were given, examples were given by Lord to say that how detached they are, the great sages are, and how can they endure these kind of difficulties and yet they remain peace in their mind. Uh, so many examples were given. Then, so now Uddhava uh, was surprised, and he declares in the OV 696 that I will not be able to tolerate these dualities and the sufferings created to them. My Lord, I have not heard of such stories of divine peace from my own ears. So Uddhava was so surprised and becomes very anxious to know. I have not heard about what is this kind of peace. How can a person can handle these kind of things? How can have such kind of peace and forbearance? So he goes on and asks Bhagavan from verse 701 completely. He tells even the great rishis have not been able to control their anger if when their advice is not followed or when their peace is disturbed, they also get angry and they curse. So even the sage Kapila got angry and cursed the Sagaras and turned them to ashes. Narada himself cursed the sons of Kubera and turned them to trees. So Durvasa, he says it's a big volume that we can talk about Durvasa's anger. Then Shringi became angry and he cursed Parikshit when serpent was put on his father's neck. So Shanaka and Sanat Kumar, the Sanat Kumaras, when they curse Jaya and Vijaya. So many examples will cited by uh, Eknath Maharaj, uh, that how can, even if they can't do, how can a person be able to uh, handle this kind of disturbance and be still have this kind of peace. So he begs, he with folded hands, he falls at the feet of Lord uh, with complete faith. He asks, um, be graceful to please tell me, how can I reach the state of final welfare of the by such peace, which you have told me I have not heard. And this peace, how can I know? How can I attain that kind of peace? So he requests Bhagavan to explain him. So the Lord Sri Krishna was very happy, glad to hear this kind of prayer uh, of his disciple falling at his feet. Uh, And just as the cloud gives shower of rain for quenching the thirst of bird Chataka and blesses the whole world, similarly, Lord now will impress the state of peace of mind uh, on Uddhava. So very interestingly, it from verse 7 to 4 to 731, a great anxiety kicks in, and Uddhava also suggests every one of us. So says that now the Lord will tell us about the peace in greater detail, and Uddhava will listen to it eager. So Eknath Maharaj, who is identified with Janardha, requests all the listeners to please pay attention to me. I mean, Lord tells everybody to pay attention on this talk.
Yes.
And
Beautifully summarized also, and nicely you said. Amazing. Can't wait for Bhikshu Gita. But the next chapter is very
correct.
Bhikshu.
Bhikshu Gita is the subsequent one.
Yeah. So Lord will tell. And it's like Uddhava asking it's like asking for us. We see the dualities, we fall for it. So now what to do? So till here we have been reached by Lord, and now from here he will uplift. Bhikshu Gita is that beautiful. Next chapter has 1,000+ OVs. So it's good to do it together. Instead of doing just some few OVs tomorrow, 100 and then another 100 and then the long break, then we will lose. We should hear it in one sitting, Monday to Thursday, Monday to Thursday. Then, that will seep in because it's Bhikshu Gita. Great, amazing. Any thoughts for you,
But
Sajidji?
two more points. Only the
Yes.
Guru can give such kind of qualities, was told in one place. And another thing, the devotion to the one who is completely devoted to the Lord will be able to attain such peace. In two different places, Eknath Maharaj says these two kind of words. I didn't know which number, but I just remember that only a Sadguru can guide, and a pure devotee can attain such peace. The two things was.
Yes. Yeah, and the Sharangharas. And that example is also nice, no? 728. When the fish shines in water, the bird stoops and catches. So like Uddhava was similarly to when Lord has said something like this to encash every word of the Lord. That example was very nice.
Yeah.
Mhm. Anything else you want to add, Sajidji? Any other point?
Actually, it's, Srihari has summarized everything, but that forbearance thing is very touching. And actually, it's just amazing that how these sages have so much of forbearance. It's really, every OV was like, it's hitting so hard that they can take any amount of insult and even physical abuse and verbal abuse and everything they can take so calmly like this. That is really amazing, that part. Yeah.
So I think we'll pause here for today. And then when we are beginning resuming it, I'll message her. Not sure when. So then I'll message. But to you for closing prayers.
Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om Shri Krishna Arpanamastu.
Thank you so much for lovely and such an easy, peaceful reading. That was very nice. Very nice. Thank you, Sri Hariji. Thank you, Nityaji. Thank you, Sajidji. Thank you, Sarpanchu. Hari Om.
Thank you, Varshaji.
Bye-bye.